And we're back again at Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15. You shall in any wise set him king over you, whom the Lord your God shall choose. One from among your brethren shall you set king over you. You shall not set a stranger over you, which is not your brother. Notes. Well, obviously, the Lord must choose the king and not the people. No one but a Jew could be king over Israel, is what this is also saying. Verse 16. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord has said unto you, you shall henceforth return no more that way. Notes. In other words, the strength of the army of Israel was to be the Lord and not horses and chariots and such. And also, don't look to Egypt, but look to the Lord. This was at least one of the great sins of Israel, which occasioned their defeat at the hands of the Babylonians. They trusted in the Egyptians instead of the Lord. Look in Jeremiah chapter 37, verse 5 through 10. A really horrific scene there. Verse 17. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. Notes. If you know anything about King Solomon, evidently he did not heed these words. Men who also have great sums of money, or even nations, tend to trust in the money instead of the Lord, which is always going to be folly. Verse 18. And it shall be, when he sits upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. Notes. Should Israel desire a king, he was to obey the instructions of verses 14 through 20. He was, with his own hand, to write a copy of the Bible, and he was to read it every day. He was to obey it, and he was not to deviate from it in any particular way. Verse 19. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of the law and these statutes, to do them. Notes. Modern Christian, the church in whole should read these words and heed them very carefully, as well, making the Bible a part of his or her everyday life. Verse 20. That his heart not be lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to his right hand or to his left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. Chapter 18. The priests, the Levites, and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire in his inheritance. Notes. Only one of the 5 Levitical offerings was consumed wholly, which was the burnt offering. Now the other 4 were basically given to the priest, with the exception of the fat and certain other things of the animal, which were to be burned on the altar. If the people did what they should do, which means they should offer sacrifices as they needed to, which was often, the Levites would then have sufficient maintenance, otherwise not so. Verse 2. Therefore shall they have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he has said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them who offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep, and they shall give unto the priest the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the maw. Notes. Well, obviously this is talking about the parts of the animal. Verse 4. The first fruit also of your wheat, or your wine, or of your wine, I should have said, and of your oil, and the first of the fleece of your sheep shall you give him. Notes. 1/10 of their crops were to go to the priest in the sanctuary, the first fruits, okay? Verse 5. For the Lord your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. Notes. continually until the Messiah would come, who by his own death on the cross of Calvary would bring to an end the necessity of priests and sacrifices and whatnot. Verse 6. And if a Levite come from any of your, turning the page, gates out of all Israel where he sojourned, and come with all the desire of his mind into the place which the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before the Lord. Notes. Only some of the Levites were engaged in the service of the sanctuary. The rest lived in their towns throughout the country. If they should feel led of the Lord to go and serve at the tabernacle or temple, they should be accepted and not hindered. Verse 8. They shall have like portions to eat, beside that which comes of the sale of his patrimony, or patrimony, I should have said. Notes. Now, having sold his home, he should not be expected to use those funds, whatever they may have been, but should share in the offerings brought, the same as the other priests or Levites. Verse 9, we're going to deal with some paganistic practices here. When you are come into the land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. They shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or who uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Notes. Well, again and again, Israel is warned concerning this. And passing through the fire is basically human sacrifices of sorts, divination, calling on spirits. An observer of times does not necessarily mean keeping track of time, but you know, the people who do the zodiac, saying that certain things will befall you if you just so happen to be born as a Scorpio or a Libra or something, or whatever that nonsense is. It's absolutely forbidden. Verse 11. Or a charmer or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard or a necromancer. Notes. Now the last one, who professed to call up the dead and from then to learn the secrets of the future, well, all of these things had to do with witchcraft and were not at all to be a part of Israel, and for all the obvious reasons. Israel was to look to God and never to these abominations. Verse 12. For all who do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord your God does drive them out from before you. Notes. In other words, this is at least a very big part of the reason that these heathen tribes were driven from Canaan. You know, a lot of people don't seem to get the reason as to why God was driving these people out. But the fact of the matter is, you wouldn't want these kinds of people in your neighborhood, okay? Verse 13. You shall be perfect with the Lord your God. Okay? Notes. Now, obviously, this presents a very major problem because none of us are perfect. Nobody's perfect, if you know what I mean. The word perfect in this particular sense means single-hearted, that is, pure from idolatry. There's just no other way around it. Verse 14. For these nations which you shall possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners, but as for you, the Lord your God has not suffered you to do so. Verse 15. The Lord your God will raise up unto you a prophet from the midst of you, of your brethren, like unto me, and him you shall hearken. Notes. Now, this prophet would be the Lord Jesus Christ. We're just going to cut it off right there, and we must pick up in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 16. Thank you very much, and God bless you.